13 songs from 60 years ago. Remember when your old radio blared this song? Or when you spun the vinyl of this one? 60 years ago, music stopped being just art and became part of our lives. Those were days when a single song could stop the world, and every radio played melodies that are now true time capsules. Today, we're opening that treasure chest of memories to relive the gems that forever shaped music and our own stories. 13, My Girl by The Temptations. That smooth, elegant chorus that seemed to wrap around everything is practically music history. My Girl by The Temptations was more than a hit. It was a balm for a world craving hope. David Ruffin's warm, soulful voice spoke straight to the heart of anyone in love or dreaming of it. For those who grew up in that era, hearing My Girl brought back school dances, fursuits, big hairdos, and an air of promise. This song was the first time many of us felt a melody could paint feelings as vividly as a picture. Fun fact, Smokey Robinson, lead singer of The Miracles, wrote it for his wife, but when he heard it with The Temptations, he knew it had found its true home. It was also one of Motown's first songs to dominate the charts with such force, showing the world the power of one of music's most iconic labels. My Girl was, and still is, an anthem of young, pure love, a melody that never fades. Before we go on, we'd love to get to know you better. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. Let's keep going. I Can't Get No, Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. While there was time for love, there was also room for rebellion. That same year, this roar shook the world, courtesy of one of the greatest bands ever. It was a guitar riff you couldn't forget. Keith Richards dreamed it up in the middle of the night and recorded it half asleep on a little tape recorder. That's how Satisfaction was born, the Rolling Stones' boldest, most defiant cry. For many of us young folks, this song said what we wanted to, but didn't dare. It was the soundtrack to finding our own voice and path. The energy was so raw you could almost touch it, the opposite of polished American pop. It was British fury crossing the Atlantic. Fun fact, the label initially didn't want to release Satisfaction as a single, thinking it was too rough, but once it hit the radio, people claimed it as their own. Today, you can't think of the Stones without that opening riff. Satisfaction kicked off an era where youth didn't just listen to music, they lived it like a manifesto. Give us a like if you think the Stones are one of the most important bands in history. 11. My Generation by The Who. If one song captured the explosion of youthful spirit in the mid-1960s, it was My Generation by The Who. It was 1965, and Pete Townshend was just 20 when he wrote those words that still echo today. This song wasn't smooth or elegant, it was a sledgehammer. Roger Daltrey's nervous stutter, which many thought was improvised, actually symbolized the anxiety and urgency of his generation. My Generation didn't just speak about youth, it spoke for them. It was a mirror reflecting rebellion against rigid post-war norms and authorities stuck in the 1950s mindset. Fun fact, when The Who played it live for the first time, they smashed their instruments at the end. It wasn't a stage stunt for the press, it was pure rage, raw theatrics. From then on, trashing guitars became a hallmark of rock rebellion. For adults back then, it was a scandal. For the young, it was liberation. I Got You Babe by Sonny and Cher.
I got you, babe. I got you, babe.
While British music stormed the scene and Motown shone, an American duo brought something different: sweetness and connection. Sonny and Cher dropped I Got You Babe, and suddenly millions of couples had their moment.
They say our love won't pay the rent.
It was simple, almost innocent, but had an undeniable pull. Sonny with his mustache and bohemian vibe, and Cher with her deep voice and futuristic gaze became the couple of the moment. It was the song playing at family parties, on car radios during endless road trips, or in those intimate moments only music can seal in memory.
I guess that's so. We don't have a pie, but at least
Their chemistry was so obvious it spilled through radios and TVs, and this hit paved the way for their own TV show a few years later, a detail you might not recall. Over time, I Got You Babe became a symbol of unity in the face of adversity, almost an anthem for those who believe that, no matter what, having someone by your side changes everything. 9. Help by the Beatles.
I need somebody help, not just anybody.
No recap of the 1960s would be complete without the Beatles. By then, the world seemed to spin to the rhythm of 4 young guys from Liverpool who'd conquered the planet. That year, they gave us Help, a confession disguised as a hit. John Lennon, who seemed to have it all, was actually asking for help.
When I was younger, so much younger than today.
For many of us, the Beatles meant joy, but Help revealed something deeper: the vulnerability behind fame. John was overwhelmed by pressure, endless tours, and constant noise, and in that whirlwind, he wrote a plea that millions sang along to without fully grasping its meaning.
Help me if you can, I'm feeling down.
Fun fact, John later said Help was his most honest song from that era. They recorded it in a flash, yet it lasted forever. For many fans, hearing it was like feeling they could ask for help without shame. Even now, years later, it's a reminder that strength sometimes means admitting fragility. 8. Mr. Tambourine Man by the Byrds. In that same 1965, something new emerged from California. 5 young guys took a Bob Dylan song and turned it into a radiant anthem, Mr. Tambourine Man by the Byrds. With its enveloping sound and intertwined vocals, they brought Dylan's poetry to the mainstream charts. This song was a gateway to a different world. It was like looking through a kaleidoscope for the first time. It was music to close your eyes and drift to, dreaming of far-off beaches, endless highways, and starry night conversations. Fun fact though, the Byrds were a 5-piece band, only one of them played on this recording, the rest was done by session musicians, but no one noticed at the time. The magic was in those voices and the vibe they created. Mr. Tambourine Man opened the door to folk rock and a whole new way of feeling music. Close your eyes today, and you can still feel that warm 1960s breeze, that sense that something big was about to happen. What's your favorite 1960s song? Drop it in the comments. 7. Like a Rolling Stone by Bob Dylan. This melody by Bob Dylan changed forever how we understood pop music. Like a Rolling Stone wasn't short or polished for radio, it was long, intense, almost a manifesto. Dylan had shed his acoustic troubadour image and embraced a more electric sound, which some called a betrayal and others a revelation. At the famous Newport Festival, people booed him for playing electric guitars, but he pressed on, convinced change was necessary. That organ intro set the stage for what was coming, and the lyrics spoke of a fall, a loss, a rootlessness, something many secretly felt in their daily lives. Like a Rolling Stone wasn't a cheerful tune. It was a raw display of human vulnerability. Years later, it was voted one of the most important songs of the 20th century because it proved a song could be an epic story, a social portrait, and an emotional punch all at once. 6. Stop. In the Name of Love by the Supremes. While the world buzzed with electric guitars and rebellion, the Supremes stayed true to themselves, singing straight to the heart. This time, they gave us Stop. In the Name of Love, a melody that captured a feeling, a warning wrapped in song. Diana Ross and her group had perfected a style where every note and step radiated glamour and emotion. Their sparkling dresses, big hair, and precise choreography made every performance feel special, but behind the shine were stories of hard work, long studio hours, and fierce competition to stay on top. The iconic stop hand gesture was a Motown choreographer's idea to emphasize the lyrics in live shows. Over time, it became one of pop music's most memorable moves. Stop, in the Name of Love, also spoke to something real, the pain of betrayal and a plea to pause before hurting someone. It was a lyric many women of the era felt deeply. Yet, the melody was so catchy, you couldn't help but move to the beat. 5. Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers. That year surprised us in many ways, but we weren't ready for a ballad that seemed to come from another time. Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers was pure emotion packed into a few minutes. Bobby Hatfield's deep, raw voice seemed to stop the world as it echoed in our heads. It played everywhere, from slow dances to home radios, and it wasn't about parties or rebellion, it was about love and longing, that ache to see someone again, a feeling we've all had. Fun fact, Unchained Melody was actually written over 10 years earlier for a little-known film called Unchained, but the Righteous Brothers revived it and made it immortal. Earlier versions went unnoticed, but this one, with its intensity, still gives chills today. In a world moving faster every day, Unchained Melody was a moment to pause, a breath. Listening to it was like opening a handwritten letter, slow and sincere, in an era of short calls and long distances. 4. We Gotta Get Out of This Place by the Animals. While some sang of eternal love, others shouted their need to escape. We Gotta Get Out of This Place by the Animals was exactly that, a cry for freedom. For many young people, it was the secret anthem of a generation trapped in dead-end jobs, gray cities, and others' wars. It was 1965, and the United States was diving deeper into Vietnam. Thousands of young guys knew their lives could change any moment, and this song became a tribute to soldiers far from home. That gritty intro and Eric Burdon's rough voice, saying what so many thought but few dared admit, grabbed us instantly. It wasn't just a headbanging tune, it was a cry for survival. Fun fact, though written by a New York songwriting duo, the Animals made it their own, turning it into a personal confession. Decades later, Vietnam vets still cite it as the song that most reminds them of those years. Subscribe to the channel if you want us to cover songs from your favorite era. 3. Tired of Waiting for You by the Kinks. While we soaked up these anthems close to home, a different melody came from London, more restrained but just as powerful. Tired of Waiting for You by the Kinks wasn't a roar, it was a weary sigh. Ray Davies wrote it about waiting, about patience running thin, a universal feeling we've all known. The Kinks stood apart from the excess of the British scene. They had a neighborhood kid honesty. Their lyrics spoke of real relationships, not movie star love, and for those of us who valued sincerity, that meant a lot. Fun fact, this song was actually written before their first big hit, but sat on the shelf until they decided to record it. When it came out, it showed a more mature side of the band and solidified them as more than a one-hit wonder. 2. California Girls by the Beach Boys. Amid so much change, one thing stayed constant: the Beach Boys' fresh, beachy vibe. California Girls was a sonic trip to golden shores, endless skies, and smiling faces. It was 1965, and Brian Wilson, with his genius ear, painted landscapes with vocal harmonies. While electric guitars and rebellious shouts sounded elsewhere, the Beach Boys offered the promise of an endless summer. This time, Brian Wilson drew inspiration not just from California Girls, but from the diversity he'd seen while touring with the band. In interviews, he said every place had something special, but he always came back to imagining the light and energy of his home state. California Girls also marked a shift. Behind its apparent simplicity was a growing complexity in Wilson's compositions. For the general public, though, it was pure joy, exactly when we needed it most. 1. Eve of Destruction by Barry McGuire. But 1965 wasn't just about love, beaches, and escapism. There was also awareness, protest, and warning embodied by Barry McGuire, who dared to speak out with Eve of Destruction, one of the first songs to bluntly say something was wrong. Hearing it back then was jarring. Radio, used to light melodies, suddenly broadcast a grave, urgent voice tackling war, racism, and nuclear threats. It was like someone opened a window and let in the cold air of reality.
We're on the eve of destruction.
The lyrics painted stark images: marching soldiers, burning cities, leaders gambling with the planet's fate. For a generation starting to question everything, this song was a flag.
Tell me over and over and over again, my friend.
Over time, it became a symbol of that turbulent decade, and even now, it echoes those days when news and music intertwined, when youth didn't just dance, but debated, protested, and dreamed of a different world. And that's the end of our journey. We'll leave you with a video of another list of old school songs if you want to keep reliving the nostalgia of those times. Catch you next time!